This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome, everyone. Today's topic is potential good deals automation is the key. So what we want to make sure is that even if you don't have the time to access any system like ChicagoDealVault or the internet or your phone or your laptop, that you get great deals in your inbox. That's deal automation. Okay, that's going to be so critical for you to grow your real estate business. So the question is, how are you going to be able to do that? So our commitment and objective is for you to not miss a single great deal. Okay, that's going to be super important. So how do we accomplish that? So I'm going to show you how we're going to make that happen. So you have two types of properties. You have MLS properties. Those are the properties that are on the market, okay, that everyone sees on the MLS. And then you also have the off-market properties. So those properties are technically not for sale, okay? So what we're going to do is through ChicagoDealVault, you are going to be able to set up alerts, deal alerts for MLS, and also we are going to be able to send you off-market deals. So what we're going to do, this is something special for all DealVault members. You can send us as many areas as you're interested in, and what we're going to do is we're going to assign a dedicated virtual assistant from our resources to help you find great off-market deals. So what they're going to do is they will not only find great off-market deals, but they will also do the analysis for you. So they're going to do the flip, the rental analysis, and also send you the contact information for the owner. Because keep in mind that those off-market properties are technically not for sale. So they are owned by motivated distressed owners. Okay, so that's something very important for you to understand. Okay, so this is our commitment to you. I'm going to show you now how to set up MLS alerts. So what that's going to do is we are scanning automatically the MLS every 2 hours. Okay, so once you give us your deal criteria, then we're going to go ahead and scan the MLS every 2 hours. When we find properties that match your investment criteria, then we're going to send you an email, okay, for MLS. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for off market. So the only difference is that for off market, it's going to be a live person doing the analysis. So everything that you would typically do, guess what? You no longer need to do. We're going to have somebody do that for you. So I'm going to show you how to set them up so that you automate the deal flow, which is critical because sometimes things may change in our life and we may not have as much time as we wish. Okay, so therefore, I want to make sure that that is not a roadblock for you in your real estate investment efforts. Okay, so I want to make sure that we knock that out of the way. So let's dive into it. So what I'm going to show you is once you log on to the system, I'm going to show you how to set up the deal alerts. Okay, so on your account right here, and this is super important, friends, because once you set up the alerts, we've had a handful of deals coming through these lead pipes. So, and these are MLS deals, okay? We've captured about 4 or 5 great MLS deals. And it is very simple. So I'm going to show you how to set those up. On the upper right-hand corner, where you have your profile, all you need to do is click in the upper right-hand corner, and then you're going to see deal alerts setting, okay? So just for sakes, I just added a lot of areas right here, okay, just as an example. But it's very simple. All you need to do is select the type of property that you're interested in. So either single family home, multi-units, or condos, okay? Then you need to set up your price range. So this is what we recommend. We will not buy properties over 200,000. Okay, that's a fact. We like to stay below 175. Okay, so but in MLS properties, we're gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna tell you why. The reason why is because some of these properties may have already been rehabbed, but you can still get them at a great deal. Okay, because probably they've been on the market for way too long, but they don't need much work. So you can go a little bit higher on the MLS. Okay, so typically we would go as high as 250,000. So I don't want to see properties that are over 250,000 on the MLS. Okay, or actually, I'm gonna make it 300,000. And the reason why, everything has a reason. The reason why, even though we may not buy properties over 175,000, I'm still going to set the alerts for 300,000. And the reason why is because we are going to target B and A areas. So A areas are the most expensive and most desirable areas, and B areas are the bread and butter. Okay, but we're going to focus on B plus areas and A minus areas. That is why I'm going to extend the purchase price to 300,000. And I'm going to give you an example why. Because we set up an alert up to 300,000, and guess what? I included an A area, Deerfield. It's in the northwest suburbs. Okay. So we happen to find the property through deal alerts, MLS. This is all MLS, and it was for sale for 300,000. Okay, actually 298. Okay, well, guess what? I got the alert on Sunday. Okay, on Sunday, when I got the alert on my phone, it was in the afternoon. So I got to it in the evening. Okay, so that property, as soon as I got home, I started to analyze the deal, and that property was worth 440,000. Okay, because I was able to pull a comp like two properties next door to that one that sold for 440,000. And guess what? It was not as nice as the subject property for 300,000. So right away, I knew that it was a great deal. So friends, even guess what? If you're not gonna buy the property, if you get the property under contract, okay, for 300,000, guess what? You can wholesale the property. So you don't need to buy the property, because remember, you are going to be making money in real estate, not when you buy, rehab, and rent the property, not when you buy, rehab, and flip the property. No, that's a big myth and misconception. You are going to be making money in real estate when you have a property under contract at a great price. That's when you're going to be making money. So my thinking is, I don't want to buy a property in Deerfield for 300,000 because it's too risky to flip, right? And let me tell you, actually, let me remind you, right now, due to the crisis and the economy contracting and property prices going down, it's not a good idea to do flips. So I wouldn't do a flip right now. I wouldn't buy a property to flip because it's way too risky. But guess what? You can wholesale the property. So that was my intention on that property in Deerfield. I was for sure not planning on buying a property for 300,000, but I knew that that property was worth 440,000 and it didn't need much work. So this is my thinking. My first option was to get it on the contract and try to wholesale it right away. Within 30 days, I could easily move that property for maybe 330, 325. It'll be like a piece of cake, right? I didn't want to get into the trouble of buying the property, putting some money into the property, and then selling that for a lot more. No, ideally, you get it on the contract and wholesale the property. That is why, even if you don't buy the properties, you have more flexibility to go higher on your price point. So for the deal alerts, set them to 300,000. Okay, and the key thing is that you need to include A areas and B areas. So right now we are trying to stay away from C and D areas. And the reason why is because guess what? Those areas have been affected the most. Um, Most of the blue collar people who have hourly jobs have been laid off, okay? And they happen to live in C, D areas. So what happens that if they don't have a job, they won't be able to pay for the mortgage. They're not going to be able to pay for the rent. So those markets have been hit very, very hard. So um, we don't want to own rentals in C markets right now because then they may not be able to pay rent. And guess what? The courts are still not open. So there's a moratorium on eviction. So we don't want to get into with the wrong foot, okay? So what you want to do is focus on A, B areas, and you don't need to buy the properties on A areas because those are going to be on the higher end. But guess what? If you find a great deal, wholesale it. Because I'm going to tell you, due to the economy crisis right now, I recommend two approaches. You either wholesale and buy and hold, or buy and hold and stay away from flips, because those are your only three exit strategies in real estate. So stick to two of them, please. Wholesale properties and buy and hold. That's about it. So having said that, set up your max to 300,000, and that's what I have set up. And as you can see, all the areas that I'm showing on the screen are BA areas. Okay, I don't have any C areas. I don't have any D areas. So if you want, just take a picture, or we're gonna send you the replay of this first thing in the morning, so you can capture all the areas that we have personally set up in ChicagoDealVault. Okay, um, so once you set this up, that's all, and then you're gonna get emails in your inbox with the MLS properties, or you can come to my deal alerts right here in ChicagoDealVault. So that is the first set of deal alerts. Now, the second thing that you need to do is send us an email to, I'm gonna put it in the chat, okay, so that everyone understands. Send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com with all your areas, okay? So all these areas that I set up in ChicagoDealVault, send us an email, and guess what? Just for the people attending the webinar tonight, we are going to assign a dedicated virtual assistant to find off-market deals in those areas. As many areas, it could be 2, 3, 4, it could be 10 areas. It doesn't matter, okay? So I wanna make sure that there's nothing on the way for your success. And typically, we do that for yearly subscribers, but people attending the webinar today, even if you're on a monthly subscription, we're gonna make sure that we assign a dedicated virtual assistant from our team to help you find great off-market deals. So this is the process that we're gonna follow. So for instance, you're gonna give us an area, whatever the area might be, and this is what our resources are going to do for you. So they're going to either come to pre-foreclosures, off-market upcoming auctions, or banked-on property. So I'm gonna give you an example. So if they come to pre-foreclosures, so what they want is to find a great deal that has three conditions: that it has a lot of equity, that it will obviously cash flow should you decide to buy and hold, and those are the two primary requirements, okay? And the third one, it will meet the bank's requirement of the debt coverage ratio, okay, which should be 1.2 and above, which I'm gonna show you how the system computes that in just a second. So once you send the areas, then what we're gonna do is, the first thing is we're gonna put, let's say the neighborhood is going to be Bolingbrook as an example, right? And then we are going to target high equity, meaning that the owner owes very little money on the property, but yet the property is worth quite a lot. So imagine the owner owes, let's say 50,000, but the property is worth 100, 150. Those are the properties that we're going to target. Why do we want to have a lot of equity? Because we're going to have more bargaining power, okay, to get the property on the contract. So not only that, but guess what? Banks are looking for equity. If you want funding, they want you to have a lot of equity. Okay, if you don't have equity, guess what? They're not going to give you the money. And I'm going to give you a quick example of that. So we have this property. Where is this property? I'll pull that up in just a second, and then I'm going to show you the appraisal. Okay. But this is before we show you what we mean by a lot of equity in just a second. I'm going to show you what we're going to do for you. Even if you don't have access to log into the system, we're going to filter high equity Bolingbrook, because if I don't filter by high equity, we're going to get a lot of pre-foreclosures. And guess what? This is what most investors do. You see, we found, whoa, hundreds and hundreds, yeah, right here, of pre-foreclosures. I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger so you can all see the screen. Hundreds, over 500. So that's way too many. But that's the mistake number one that most investors make. They go after all pre-foreclosures with equity, no equity. So in here, you can even capture properties that are underwater, so no equity. Guess what? When the property is underwater, meaning that the owner owes more than what it's worth, they only have two options to get out of the deal. They either do a short sale or they do a loan modification. Okay, but we're not a mortgage company or a mortgage broker to help them do a loan modification. And then a short sale, it may take too long, and the short sale needs to be approved by the bank, and you need a special broker that is specialized in short sales to be able to do that. We want to take the easy route. Okay, we just want a lot of equity. We don't have the expertise to work on properties that are underwater, no equity. We want properties with a lot of equity so we can have a lot of bargaining power, and then we can have what the bank requires, which is equity, 20, 35% equity on the property. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the 50% equity, and look at the big jump in the number of results. Now it went down to only 47. So only 10% of all the pre-foreclosures make sense when it comes to equity. Okay. So right here, I'm going to randomly pick one property. Okay. So this is what the resource that we're going to dedicate for you is going to do. So they're going to say, well, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, less than 200,000 square feet. So they're going to make sure that this property has enough equity. So look at this. So they owe right here the outstanding debt. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for everyone to see. Very little less than 100,000, right? And then yet this property is worth close to 200,000, right? So you see that the owner has over 100,000 in equity. So that is requirement number one, having a lot of equity, because this is the rule of thumb that we have. If the property is worth close to 200,000, you need to buy the property or get it on the contract for at least $100,000 less than that. Okay, so if this property is worth, let's say 200,000, 190, let's just round up the numbers, 200,000, you need to get it on the contract for 100,000. And yet, look, the owner owes a lot less than that. So you have enough room to not only pay off the outstanding debt, but also for the owner to get some sort of relocation package. 10, 15,000 for them to settle somewhere else. Okay, everyone needs to win. It has to be a win-win-win situation. A win for the owner, a win for the bank, and obviously a win for you. So this is what we're gonna do. In this case, this makes a lot of sense, and obviously something that it's an assumption that you need to see the property from the inside, because based on the square footage, we're going to give you a rough idea of what the potential rehab estimate is going to be, assuming that it's light to medium rehab. But you always have to see the property from the inside, or at least get some pictures, lots of pictures. Okay, if you're going to virtually see the property, get in touch with the owner, that's going to be critical. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to fill out the rental calculator, right? In here, we're going to plug in some expenses. We're going to plug in the taxes. And then once we do that, we're gonna move on to the flip calculator, and we're gonna pull some comps. We're gonna do the ARV. We're gonna calculate your net profit on the flip. And remember, the net profit on the flip needs to be at least 20%. So right here, we're gonna tell you the most you should pay depending on your exit strategy. Okay, so in this case, it's between 112 if you're going to do a rental and close to 100,000 if you're going to do a flip. That's exactly what I was telling you. Even if you're going to do a rental, try to pay the flip price. Why? Because guess what? If you decide to wholesale this property to a flipper, you have enough room, enough equity for the flipper to make a decent profit. Does that make sense? Because if you get it on the contract at a higher price, you may not be able to wholesale it. You may not be able to flip it. You only can do a buy and hold. Okay, so you are limiting your options. That is why for this type of properties, we're going to suggest that you get it on the contract for the flip price. Ideally, if you're thinking about wholesale, then you focus on the wholesale price. That is why you need a lot of equity in the property so that everything is satisfied. The debt, the owner makes a little bit of money, and then you also end up with a great deal. Okay, so everyone needs to win. Once we fill out the flip and rental calculator, we're going to generate a PDF report that is going to have all the analysis, all the comps, everything is going to be included in there for you. In addition, we're going to make sure that we give you the owner's information. And this is an example. We just clicked on the owner's name, and we're going to give you their mobile, landline, email, right? So once you have a great deal, all you need to do is give them a call, okay? And then you may wonder, well, if I give them a call, what am I going to do? Okay, worry no more, because we will also send you the scripts that are going to help you build rapport with the owner, number one. Number two, identify their motivation level. That is so critical. We're going to show you how to rate their motivation. We rate them in 3 levels. Hot lead, they're extremely motivated. They're going to tell you, yes, I need to sell my property in 3 days. Yeah, I don't have the money for the repairs, and I'm going to lose my home in 2 months. Yes, if you offer me 100,000, I'll sell the property. Those are hot leads, very motivated. So we're going to give you the script for you to identify their motivation level. So it's hot, and then you have warm, and then you have cold. Cold, we're going to skip them all together. Cold, for instance, let me give an example. Somebody will tell you, well, you call me, so how much are you going to offer me for my property? Or they're going to say, I'm not ready to sell right now, maybe in 6 months. So we're going to just put them in the back burner. And then the warm lead, okay, those are people who overnight may go from warm to hot. So we're going to need to keep in touch with them at least twice a month. That is very important. So not only are we going to give you the scripts for you to identify their motivation level, but most importantly, the ultimate objective is to make an appointment. If you decide to do things virtually, it's okay. They're going to send you lots of pictures, or you actually go to the property physically and see the property from the inside. So we are going to give you the scripts. We're going to give you the 1-page rehab estimator that is going to help you get an idea of what it takes to bring the property to its previous glory, meaning to the ARV that you need to either wholesale it, buy and hold, or do anything that you want to do with the property. So we're going to provide those scripts and 1-pager for the rehab so that you have everything, all the tool set required to get the property on the contract, okay? So once you have the MLS deal alert set up and you send us the areas of every single neighborhood that you're interested in, then the ball is on our court. So we're going to do our job to send you MLS alerts and also off-market deals, because I want to make sure that you don't miss a single deal. There are going to be a lot of deals coming down the pipe due to high unemployment, people not being able to pay their mortgage. Okay, so once the courts open up sometime in August, there's going to be a huge wave of foreclosures being filed. Therefore, all those properties are going to be coming to ChicagoDealVault, and you need to know about them because those sellers might be extremely motivated to sell and may have a lot of equity. So you're going to have a lot of inventory. And also, we're going to have a second wave with the forbearance, right? So 6 months are going to be up towards the end of November after elections. So those people who still don't have a job and they cannot come up with the entire 6 months worth of mortgage payments, they're going to go into foreclosure. So it's pretty sad, but it's going to represent a huge opportunity for investors like you and I. So we want to make sure that you're ready. We want to make sure that you don't miss a single deal. Okay. I want to make sure that even if you don't have time to access the system, you're still getting a lead pipe of deals off market and MLS. And keep in mind, even if it's over the 200,000 price range, if it's a great deal, just get it on the contract. We are going to help you blast that out to the entire network, which is over 10,000 cash buyers, investors in the Chicagoland area. Okay, so we're going to help you move the contract so at least you make a wholesale fee. Keep in mind that if you don't have a real estate license, you can do one wholesale a year, every 12 months. Okay, but if you're thinking about doing wholesales, please get a real estate broker's license. It's very important. Worst case scenario, let me give you a tip. You can use a broker to do your wholesale. They're going to charge you maybe 2-3%, but it's okay. If you don't have time to get a license, a real estate broker, and we can recommend a brokerage. We're a brokerage, but we are going to recommend a couple of brokerages that can help you wholesaling properties. Okay, they're going to charge you 2-3%, but it's okay, right? We just want to make sure that you wholesale, right? That you start wholesaling, because imagine all these waves of foreclosures coming down the pipe. Those are properties owned by highly motivated distress owners. Okay, so you really need to help those people by getting the property in the contract and moving that to cash buyers. So we're going to help you do that. That is why, again, you can't afford to miss any of the great upcoming great deals. So this is what we're going to do for you. And again, we're going to be looking for a spread of at least 100,000. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So in fact, we're going to be closing on a property this Friday in Elmwood Park. So we're going to also take you to that property, probably not this Sunday. In 2 weeks, we're going to take you to that property so that you see the condition of the property. So we got that from a large bank. It's a bank-owned property, and we got it on the contract for 150,000. We got the appraisal last week, and it appraised for 265,000. So we have a spread of 115,000, and the rehab is going to be about 35,000. So all in is going to be 185. So I'm going to show you the numbers, okay, so that you understand what we're looking for when we say a lot of equity. The property appraised for 265, okay. So let me show you what the bank is going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for at least 25 to 30% equity. So times 65, that's even, let me do 30% equity. So 265 times, oh, my calculator. Okay, here we go. 265 times 70%, okay? So 185. So they're gonna want you to get it on the contract for no more than 185, okay? But the way our formula works is that we're not gonna pay 185. We're gonna pay the 70% of the ARV minus the rehab, and our rehab estimate is 35,000. So right we're right on the nail. So we're going to be paying $151,000 for the property. So we're going to have enough room for the lender, Harmony lender, to give us the entire $35,000 for the rehab. And on top of that, we're still going to have the 30% equity they require. So should we decide to do a flip or a rental, the property has enough equity to make at least a 20% net profit on the flip, or that it will cash flow at least $300 per month. Okay. So we're gonna go show you that property probably in the next 2-3 weeks, and then I'm gonna give you actually a use case scenario so that you fully understand what it takes to get that property on the contract, which is very simple because we're also going to be able to help you buy properties from the back door, and that's the shadow inventory. Okay, right here. And our off-market team is also going to help you. We just added more properties. As of 2 days ago, we had 600 and something. Now we added about 100 properties. So the way we find great deals for you is by mapping them all together, and we're just gonna identify the ones that fall in your investment criteria. Okay, so I'm gonna show you that as soon as it comes back. But again, I just wanna quickly summarize what you need to have done to automate the deal flow. Number one, you need to go under deal alerts. Okay, in the deal alerts, you are going to set up the type of property. I highly suggest that you stick to single family homes for now, and then no more than 300,000, and then add A and B areas. Stay away from C and D areas because they're being hit the hardest. Very simple. And number two, you're going to send us an email or a screenshot of all the areas that you've selected. Okay, and then we're going to assign a dedicated virtual assistant to help you identify great off-market deals. So this is an example of all the bank-owned properties that are ready and that are available for you to purchase. So we're getting even in Indiana. It's just insane. Look at the number of bank-owned properties, and this is going to double by the end of the year. Okay, this is just going to be insane. So the way to prepare for this huge opportunity, friends, is to make sure that you have your entity created and that you line up funding, meaning that you have your line of credit, that you have business credit cards, and that you already build relationships with private money lenders. Okay, so when you're ready to pull the trigger, boom, you have funding readily available. But let me tell you, the pros have three things in common. They have a great deal, which we're going to help you find. They understand basic analysis. Guess what? We're going to do the analysis for you for off-market properties. And number three, they have funding. But guess what? They have funding because they have a great deal. That's what I showed. That's what I was telling you earlier. Like the Elmwood property we're closing on this Friday. It's got a lot of equity. We're getting it for 150. It's worth 265, and it requires 135,000 in rehab. So all the numbers just make sense. So even though I know property prices are going down, they can go down as far as 30% in the next 12 months. So a property that before COVID was worth 100,000, 12 months later could be worth 70,000. But if the property makes sense, so it's a great deal with equity, cash flow, and debt coverage ratio over 120, you can still buy it today. Believe me, Harmony lenders are ready. Right now, they have most of them open up. They're back on their foot, okay? So they're lending right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. They recently, in the last webinar I show you, I just made a phone call. They send us right away. Pre-approval letters, proof of funds. Hugo, we're ready to lend money right now. So long the deal makes sense, because these Harmony lenders and private money lenders are asset-based. What it means is that they focus on the asset itself to make sure that it makes sense financially. If it makes sense, you're gonna have the money. But still, keep in mind, you still need to have at least 10 to 15% cash or reserves for the purchase. Okay, so cash is going to be king. Try to save money, and that is why I emphasize for you to get business credit cards, because you're going to have access to cash advances from business credit cards. And if you don't have those, send us an email. We're going to send you the list of business credit cards that you can apply for, and also the list of 22 Harmony lenders that are ready and open to fund your deals. Okay, so let's go back to what the dedicated VA is going to do. Based on your deal criteria, what we're going to do is, for instance, we're going to go to Bolingbrook. What a coincidence, right? We're looking at Bolingbrook. So this is a bank-owned property, and I'm going to show you if this makes sense or not. So we're going to analyze the deal in seconds. So this is how much you can buy it for, 140,000, and this property could be worth up to 177,000. So what we're suggesting is that the most you should pay for a flip would be 96, for a rental 115. So the bank is going to sell it for 140, not a penny less, not a penny more. So this property doesn't make sense right off the bat. We have the assumption of at least 25,000 in rehab, but the bank is asking for too much. Okay, so this property doesn't make sense. Therefore, we are not going to send this over to you, because financially at 140, you don't have enough meat in the bone to do anything. If you buy this property for 140,000, guess what? It's not going to cash flow, and you're going to lose money if you do a flip. That's simple, and you won't be able to wholesale it. It is that important that you never ever overpay for the property, and that is why we came up with this max allowed offer table, because we want to make sure that you never ever overpay for a property. We want to make sure that you pay the right price. Super important, friends. Okay, so this is not a good deal, but at least I'm showing you how quickly we are going to analyze the deals for you. So let me zoom in, because there are a lot more deals in this area. Bolingbrook, I think we found there's another one for how much? 80,000. This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So this is too small. What we recommend is 3-bedroom. Okay, that's very important that you stick to 3 bedrooms, because they're more marketable and you can collect more rent. 2 bedrooms, they're just okay. We try to stay away from 2-bedroom houses. Okay, this is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. This is a little bit bigger. So the bank is asking, whoa, for oh, it's not too, yeah, they're asking for way too much. This property is worth no more than 200,000, so this doesn't make sense. Okay, so there's something wrong with how much the bank is asking for. So we're not gonna send you that. But this is just to quickly show you an example of how we identify bank-owned properties that you can buy directly from the bank. Okay, and the way it works is that when you find a property that you like, we are going to give you access to our partner Jacob from Texas. Okay, so let me show you Aurora. Aurora is a great upcoming rental market. So this property, let's say you like this property, we have an inquiry button. Please keep in mind that you do your due diligence. This is where you communicate with our partner, asset manager, who handles all this inventory that we get. So is this available? Available, right? And if this is available and this makes sense, and you've done your due diligence, meaning going to the property, making sure location is good, that is not a rehab or a tear down, then we are going to help you pull this property from the back door. Even if it's already in the auctioning platforms like auction.com, hubzu.com, it doesn't matter. Like the property we're closing on Friday, it was a bank-owned property. It was already in auction.com, but it did not matter. We bought it for what the bank was asking for, meaning the reserve. And that's one of the big advantages, because when you go to auction.com, hubzu.com, most oftentimes you will not know what the bank's reserve is. That's how much the bank is going to sell it for. Most people, most investors do not know. Guess what? You do know through ChicagoDealVault. So it's a huge advantage because that will allow you to never overpay for the property, and you don't need to engage in a bidding war, which is huge, right? When you bid in these auctioning platforms, it's like going to the judicial auction at the courthouse. You overbid each other and you end up overpaying for the property. So that will never happen. Okay, we won't allow you to overpay for the property. So in summary, again, you've got to have deal flow from MLS and off market. That's simple. You cannot disregard MLS. Why? Because there's still great deals there, even though there are a lot of people who see these deals. But guess what? Most people do not know how to analyze properties quickly because through the system, you can analyze them in minutes, right? So people get to analysis paralysis. They spend hours trying to analyze something. And guess what? It might be too late by then, which is what happened to me in the Deerfield property. When I got to the property, it was on a Sunday evening. Guess what? I called the agent on Sunday night, and they told me, Hugo, we got an offer, and we accepted that this afternoon. So somebody pretty smart identified that that property that was for sale for 300,000 was worth over 400,000. So they got it on the contract. So it was just a shame, right? But you know, the name of the game is speed. You've got to be able to have a lead pipe for MLS off market. You have to be able to analyze the properties right away, meaning that you need to understand how much the property is for. You need to have a spread of 100,000 between the price you pay for it and the ARV. Okay, the area should be B plus, A minus, and the rehab should not exceed 40,000. Okay. In fact, I got a message from one of our members today. They said, Hugo, I've got this property that I can, it's off market, that I can get it on the contract for 120,000, and the ARV is about 220. I said, well, that sounds great. That sounds like you have enough spread, like about 100,000. But then I asked, how much do you think the rehab is going to be? They said, well, the rehab is going to be about 85,000. Boom, that would kill all the numbers. Okay, so your rehab needs to be for sure under 40,000, because then you're going to need a lot more than the 100,000 spread if your rehab is going to be 80,000. But then it just doesn't makes sense to take on a project of 85,000. I mean, you're going to be touching every single system in the property. Therefore, your risk goes higher, your rehab time is higher. You are not going to be making money by taking on big projects. That's a huge misconception that a lot of investors make the mistake. Okay, they think that bigger is better. Guess what? Not in real estate. Bigger means bigger problems, bigger risks, and less money. You've got to stay with simple, boring houses. Ideally, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, or 2 bath, no basement, under 1,800 square feet. Okay, that's going to give you the most return on your investment and the least number of headaches. Because remember, think about this. If it was true that bigger was better and meant more money, wouldn't you think that contractors, people who are in the construction business, would be financially free? Of course, right? But they're not. Contractors are not wealthy by no means. They're still running on the treadmill, right? If they stop working or doing jobs, the income goes down to zero, right? The wealth in real estate comes by buying simple properties that won't require a big investment in rehab, less than 40, 35,000. Okay, that is the key, so that you're in and out in no more than 3-4 weeks for the rehab. Okay, that is the key, to not take on big projects. Even if you have a construction background, don't get too excited. we have members who have a construction background, and guess what? They've been burned by taking these huge rehab projects. Even they've done additions. No, now they're downsizing. They're doing smaller rehabs because those are the most profitable. You're an investor. You're not a contractor. You're not in the construction business. And that business doesn't make any money. Remember, you're going to be making money in real estate the minute you get a great deal under contract. Not when you do the rehab, not when you do the rental, not when the flipping. No, you're going to be making money when you get a property under contract for a great price. It is that simple. The other day I was on the phone with one of our members, Ron Brock. Okay, so he told me, Hugo, I've got this great property in Evergreen Park on the contract for 120,000. So we ran the numbers, and I said it's going to be a short sale. And I said you've got to negotiate that to 100,000, no more than 100,000, because ARV is about 200,000. So I said we need at least 100,000 spread, and the rehab is going to be about 35,000. So unless we get it on the contract for 100,000, we won't have enough room in the property to do anything, not even getting funded for it. So, well, the numbers are critical, but yet they're very simple. Remember, from the price you get it on the contract, you need $100,000 spread. It is that simple. That's how the pros. That's how I analyze deals. Tell me, like a wholesaler sent me a deal. First of all, before looking at the property, you need to make sure that the area supports your exit strategy. So let's say if it's in Hanover Park and you want to do a flip, well, you better find out if Hanover Park supports flips, because there are flipping markets and rental markets. So if you're going to do a flip in a rental market, bad idea, or vice versa. If you want to do a rental in a flipping market, bad idea. So you need to make sure that the area supports your exit strategy. And due to the economy, right now you should be focusing on rentals and wholesales. Okay. So I'm going to take some of the questions. I see that I some questions on the line. How much is an amount to pay the owner? Okay, so how much should you pay the owner if you get it on the contract? So it varies depending on how much equity you have, but it's going to be at least 5,000, 5,000 all the way to 25,000, 30,000, depending on how much equity you have. Okay, that is going to be very, very critical. Let me just give you an example. A 3-flat that we got from a wholesaler, actually from DealVault, we got it on the contract. Well, he got it on the contract for 155. He wholesaled that to us for 175, so he made $20,000, and the owner only owed about 60,000 on the building. So the owner got 155,000. Okay, so he was not only able to pay the outstanding debt of 55,000, but he kept a good 85,000, right? 75,000 at least, after all the expenses, closing costs. So the owner had a lot of equity. So that's an example of a win-win for everyone. A win for the owner, a win for the bank who got paid, a win for the wholesaler who made 20,000, and it was a good deal for us as the buyers. Even if we paid 175, that building today is worth 450,000 after the rehab has been done. Okay, another question is, I understand that the Harmony lenders for the front door, but do you see the conventional lenders to get the property renter? Okay, so they're talking about, the question is about Harmony lenders versus conventional lenders. So great question, Mark. So we're going to be using on the purchase Harmony lenders because they're going to fund about 90 to 85% of the purchase. You need to come up with 10 to 15% down for the down payment, and they're going to fund 100% of the rehab, which is great. So once you do all that, You buy it, they help you buy it, you do the rehab, they're gonna refund you 100% for the rehab. Then you need to rent the property. It has to be rented before you refinance. So let me tell you, on the refinance, many Harmony lenders nowadays are coming up with a rental loan. So you don't need to go to conventional lenders. Conventional lenders are the big banks like Chase, Bank of America, Homebridge. Homebridge is our preferred conventional lender because these Harmony lenders can turn the fix and flip loan into a rental loan. So they're going to put it from a 4-month term into a 30-year term, from a 10% rate to a 5.5 or up to 7%. So that's something that I really like because you don't need to do a separate closing. Since they already have your application, they already have the appraisal, you're going to be saving money on closing expenses, appraisals. So it's a big advantage. So in fact, right now it's a great idea to do refinances. That's what we're doing right now on common property. Why? Because interest rates are historically low. So we're putting those higher interest rates loans we're going to combine them into a bigger loan. They call it a blanket loan. So we're going to take several properties that have a high interest rate and then put them into a blanket loan, a big jumbo loan at a lower interest rate. That's what we're doing right now. So right now is the time to refinance because interest rates are so low, and also to sell. Why? Because we're at the peak of the market. If you have a fleet or you have a property to sell, you gotta do it right now because property prices are going down. Why? Because sales have dropped due to the coronavirus. Not only that, because there's gonna be an increase in inventory supply. So when you have an increase in supply, property prices go down. Okay. So please, if you have a property to sell right now, is the time to sell. And I'm gonna tell you, some of the pro investors are selling properties that are not performing, meaning that are not cash flowing as much. Why? Because they want to stash cash. When the time comes for these great deals down the line, by the end of the year and into next year, you need to have enough savings to get funding. Okay, so that is super critical. If you have something that you want to get rid of right now is the time. But other than that, if you have a lot of equity in some existing properties, don't sell them because that's going to trigger a tax event. You're going to need to pay taxes on the net gain. So the best and the smartest thing is to refinance and do a cash out. Okay, so if you want money and you have equity, you can do a cash out refinance in those properties. And right now is the time to do it because the interest rate is going to be super low. Okay, now let me place more questions. Let me see. So yeah, can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Hugo.
Okay, perfect. So did you guys hear what I said in the last minute or so?
No, that was all silent.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me rewind. How much? Like few minutes, or when did you stop listening, hearing?
Yeah, probably 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you is, thank you for letting me know. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my sound, but um, I'm gonna summarize what we just talked about, and I'm gonna tell you what you need to focus on and what the pros are doing right now. So you need to have a flow of great deals. Whether you have time to access a system, get on your phone, get on the computer, it's irrelevant. You need to have that flow. So make sure that you set up the deal alerts in DealVault by going under user settings and then deal alerts, okay, right here. Set up to 300,000 and select A areas and B areas. If you don't know what an A area and B area, please go to area reports right here. Where are my area reports? And then ask for here, area type A and B. So we're gonna give you the list of all the A and B areas, and then just search, okay? And if those are the areas that you wanna target, send those the areas, because we're gonna assign a dedicated virtual assistant to help you find off-market deals. So we're gonna go into pre-foreclosures, into these areas right here, pre-foreclosures, upcoming auctions, and banked-on properties. So we are going to find deals that have equity and that have cash flow should you decide to do a buy and hold, okay? We will not only analyze the flip, but also the rent approach, and then give you the owner's contact information, because these are technically not for sale, so you need to connect with the owner directly via phone, email, or text. We're gonna send you all that contact information, as well as the scripts, so that you do three things. You build rapport, you identify their motivation level, either a hot lead or a warm lead. Cold lead, we're gonna skip, right? We're gonna keep them in the back burner. And then number three, we're also gonna give you the script to set up an appointment, because that's the ultimate objective of talking to somebody, to set up an appointment either virtually to see the property, via pictures, FaceTime, or physically, depending how the seller and you feel comfortable with getting together. But you do need to see the property so that you estimate the rehab, which is going to be critical for you to make the right offer, because you need to subtract the rehab amount. And actually, that's how we overcome the biggest seller's objective, which is price. They want to get the top highest price for their property. Guess what? Wait a minute, because we need to bring the property to its previous glory, and we need to spend, boom, this much in the rehab, which they sometimes don't understand. So you need to make sure that you have a good idea. So we are also going to give you a one-page rehab estimator, so that you can very quickly come up with a very accurate rehab estimate. So we're going to make all those available to you. Send us an email. So right now, this is what you need to do. You need to save money. Make sure that your FICO is as high as possible, ideally over 700, okay? Because even Harmony lenders are gonna run your personal credit, even though they are asset-based, okay? They're gonna focus on the asset itself. They're still going to run your credit. It might be an inquiry, it's not gonna be a hard hit, it might be just an inquiry, which is not gonna affect your FICO score, but just try to get it over 700, because if you have great FICO score, they're going to give you better terms, meaning better interest rate. Okay, that is very important. And what the pros are doing right now, they are refinancing, because interest rates are extremely low. So this is the time to refinance. If you have a flip that you need to sell it right now, because property prices are dropping. They're going to drop in the next 12 months up to 30%. Okay, so if a property was worth before COVID 100,000, down the line, after 12 months, it could be worth 70, 75,000. So flips are out of the question. You need to stick to wholesales and rentals, okay? And remember, to analyze a deal, you need at least $100,000 spread. Like the property we're closing on this Friday, we got on the contract for 150,000. Is in Elmwood Park. It appraised at 265, so it has 115,000 spread. So not only do we have over 30% equity, but we also are going to get the rehab paid off by the lender, because we have such a big spread on the deal. We're going to take you to that property in about two weeks or maybe less. Okay, I want you to see the property as is, the way it is. Okay, we're also going to take you to the other property in Mount Prospect that we're finishing up the rehab, so that you see the after rehab. Okay, but again, today you need to take care of your FICO, reach out to Harmony lenders so they give you a pre-approval letter or a proof of funds, Okay, that's going to be based on your liquidity, because you need those letters to send along with the offer, just to make sure that sellers take you seriously when you are making an offer, and also save money, okay? Because before the end of the year and into 2021, there are going to be a huge number of foreclosures coming down the pipe, okay? So you need to be ready to pull the trigger. So again, friends, please do